It's time for people to rescue themselves by leveraging on this unbelievable financial revolution. Life is becoming tougher and tougher for the average individual day by day. Things are becoming more and more expensive. Inflation rate is hitting the roof. If you are responsible for a family, you know very well that school fees are becoming more and more expensive every year. Bills are mounting up. Your salary seems to be becoming smaller and smaller. People are becoming poorer and poorer. However, there are some people who are becoming richer and richer. How? These are the people who grab opportunities and leverage on them. For example, the internet was a wonderful opportunity that only a very small number of people benefited from, and we missed it.
Today, there is a new revolution that's going to make some people very, very wealthy. Some people's lives have already massively changed in the past few years because of this revolution.
So what is this revolution? It's the unbelievable financial revolution, the best invention after the internet. It's called Bitcoin and the blockchain. You may have heard of Bitcoin, and maybe not. Whether you have or you haven't, you need to listen very carefully to what we're going to share with you in this video. Let me start by sharing with you a small story about the evolution of money. Many years ago, people used to buy and sell things through what was known as the barter system. So for example, I'm a farmer and I have bananas or potato or whatever. I can exchange with you banana and take potato. And then people realized that by using things that can expire, it's not a practical thing to do. So they moved to things that has no expiry, for example, stones and shells. And after that, they discovered that stones and shells has no value at all. Why? Because it's easily found and it's not a scarce resource. So people started to look for things that are more scarce and more durable and can also store value. And then it was decided that gold, silver and bronze will be used to exchange value. However, metal money was found inconvenient because it was dangerous to move around with gold and silver coins. This is why paper money was invented, and this marked a very important stage in the development of money. Later on, paper money became regulated and controlled by central banks and governments. Banks also issued plastic money, known today as debit cards and credit cards. Today, there is a new form of money called cryptocurrencies. The most popular cryptocurrency today is the famous Bitcoin.
So what is Bitcoin? Bitcoin is a worldwide peer-to-peer electronic cash system with no third party involved. Bitcoin is made of 100 million Satoshis. The name Satoshis came from its creator, Satoshi Nakamoto. No one knows whether Satoshi Nakamoto is a person, an organization, or even a country.
Bitcoin was created in 2008-2009 after the financial crisis. And why it was created? Because it really solved a lot of issues that we have today with fiat currencies. Fiat money is like the US dollar, the yen, dirhams, or the Egyptian pounds. So what was the problem with fiat money that led to the creation of Bitcoin? The first and major problem was that there was no control over the amount of money being printed by central banks and governments. Paper money was supposed to be covered by gold, but by printing a lot of money, now this paper loses its value.
When money loses its value, this is what is known as inflation. So how does Bitcoin solve the problem of inflation? Bitcoin was created with a limited supply of 21 million Bitcoins only. Today, in 2018, there are 17 million Bitcoins being circulated all over the world. Another problem solved is freedom of transferring value. People can send money to anyone, anywhere in the world with just a click of a button. No bank needed. Sending Bitcoin to a friend is actually as easy as sending an email, and the transfer fees are negligible. Bitcoin and blockchain have solved a major problem that has limited billions of people around the world. Today, there are about 5 billion people who do not have access to bank accounts. In fact, do you know that the number of people who own smartphones is much bigger than the number of people who own bank accounts? Transferring Bitcoins through the blockchain is a peer-to-peer system, which means people will not really need a bank or any third party anymore to transfer money to their families. So just as internet has solved the gap of distance with respect to communication, blockchain has solved the gap of distance with respect to freedom in transferring value.
So what was really the invention in Bitcoin? When Satoshi Nakamoto created Bitcoin, he solved a very major problem that many people failed to solve before. People tried to create something similar to Bitcoin, but they failed for one reason, and it's simply the double spending. What's the double spending? Double spending is exactly like I'm sending you an email. When I send you an email, I still have a copy of whatever document I'm sending you. And that's the problem that people faced before. But with Bitcoin, once I send you Bitcoin, you get the original that I have, so I cannot spend it anymore.
When Bitcoin was first created, its value was less than a single cent. The first transaction that ever happened was in 2010 when a man bought 2 pizzas for 10,000 Bitcoins. You can go online and check the value of 1 Bitcoin today. Why has its value risen so much? Today, more and more governments are accepting and adopting Bitcoin. For example, in Germany, it has become a legal tender, and in several other countries around the world. More merchants are accepting it as a form of payment. For example, in the United Arab Emirates, specifically in Dubai, you can purchase a house from a real estate developer using Bitcoin. In Japan and Korea, there are more than 50,000 merchants accepting Bitcoin as a form of payment in exchange for products and services. Today, there are a lot of ATMs around the world where you can exchange fiat currency cash for Bitcoin and vice versa. As it gets more and more accepted, its value rises. Most expectations from economists, businessmen, and financial gurus say that the value of a single Bitcoin will continue to rise till it reaches at least $500,000. Just as the internet was about to become the biggest invention and the next biggest thing in the 90s, today, Bitcoin and blockchain are becoming the best invention after the internet and truly the biggest thing. Another problem with fiat currency solved by the Bitcoin is that fiat currency can be faked. Bitcoin can never be faked.
So, how can someone benefit from this financial revolution? There are 4 ways. The first way is to buy and hold. Buy some Bitcoins, keep them in your smart wallet, and sell them after a few years. But once you sell, you are out of the game. The second way is to trade in Bitcoins. But to profit from trading, you must have enough experience not to lose your money, because it's very risky. The third way is if you have a company, you can accept a Bitcoin for a service or a product you are selling. The fourth way is to mine Bitcoins, which is the process of producing Bitcoins. But before we explain mining, let us first understand what is the technology behind Bitcoin, which is blockchain.
I'm going to try to explain to you the blockchain in the simplest way possible. The best example I can give is that the blockchain to Bitcoin is exactly what internet is to email. Without blockchain, there is no Bitcoin. And Bitcoin is just one way of using the blockchain, exactly like how email is just one way of using the internet. To be a little bit more specific, the blockchain is a public ledger, which means it is a network of computers around the world connected to each other through the internet. These computers are owned by different people and different organizations around the world and not owned by one single central authority. It is a completely decentralized public ledger. This public ledger is responsible for recording and verifying all the transactions that happen between people. When someone wants to transfer a specific amount of money in Bitcoins from his smart wallet to another person's smart wallet, he simply inputs the other person's wallet address, puts in the amount, and clicks send. Once this is done, this transaction is sent at the same time to all the computers around the world or all the specific equipment around the world that carry out this transaction and verify it and record it. Every 10 minutes, there are a few thousand transactions happening on the blockchain, people sending to each other Bitcoins. This is called a block of transactions. And every day on the blockchain, there are anywhere between 200,000 to 400,000 transactions. I don't want to get too technical, but these transactions are very difficult mathematical equations, or what we call algorithms. Don't worry, I'll try to make it very simple. This is very similar to when someone wants to transfer a specific amount of money through a bank to someone else. When you walk into a bank, there is also a teller sitting there. What is his job? His job is to receive the money from you, count the money, verify that it is not fake money, and perform the transaction digitally on his system. This transaction is a digital transaction. It's just ones and zeros on a computer. There is no person carrying the money that you have just deposited and taking it all the way to the person that you want to send it to. And transferring bitcoins through the blockchain is exactly the same. The only difference is that there is no teller sitting there to receive the money and verify the transaction for you. There is equipment. So the blockchain is nothing but a central bank that can see all the transactions performed by all the people via all the banks. However, not for fiat currency, but for cryptocurrency. So now, let me explain mining. Mining is the process of generating new bitcoins. When someone wants to send to someone bitcoins, new bitcoins come out. How does this happen? The equipment that is responsible for receiving the bitcoin, solving these transactions or these algorithms, and sending them to the receiver gets the reward. There are two kinds of rewards. The first is the transaction fees, but it's a very small amount that the sender adds to the amount that he wants to send. The second reward is received from the blockchain. Every time one of the equipment solves a block of transactions within 10 minutes, it receives a reward for solving these few thousand transactions from the blockchain. How much is this reward? When mining Bitcoin started in 2009, for the first 4 years, the amount of reward received from the blockchain was 50 bitcoins every 10 minutes for the equipment that solved the block of transactions. In 2013, after the first 4 years, the amount of bitcoins that were received from the blockchain was halved into 25 bitcoins only. From 2017 until 2020, the amount of bitcoins received from the blockchain for solving a block of transactions is halved again into 12.5 bitcoins. The 4 years after that, the amount of bitcoins released will be halved again to 6.25. And this will keep happening until the last bitcoin is generated by the blockchain in 2140. And that's when all the 21 million bitcoins will have been mined. So one of the best ways to benefit from this unbelievable financial revolution is to be part of the mining process. The mining process is the best way to generate bitcoins without even buying them. So everywhere around the world, people speak about two ways of mining. The first way is to purchase equipment and start mining by yourself. However, this way has a few challenges. The first of which, you will have to pay a very big electricity bill in order to maintain this equipment, because the equipment is very hot. You need to have cooling 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You need to make sure that you have a very strong and fast internet connection. You need to make sure that you always have the latest and most up-to-date equipment, because all the time new equipment are being introduced. And still, you may face a very big difficulty, which is competition. Today, there are huge organizations that have a very large number of equipment in mining facilities all over the world. You having a small number of equipment will find it difficult to compete with these large organizations, because when one transaction is performed and all the equipment compete on solving these algorithms, the person who has a very large number of equipment definitely stands a much bigger chance of getting the reward from the blockchain than someone who has a very small number of equipment. The second and the better way of mining is to buy shares in a mining pool from a large mining company that has a huge number of equipment solving these algorithms and receiving rewards from the blockchain, and whatever bitcoins that are received are distributed in daily profits on all the people who own these shares. And at ClubRich, that was our choice. We hope you found the information in this video useful to you. See you in the next video, so stay tuned.